03:12 a.m., South China Sea. A faint blip flickers on the sonar screen of USS John S. McCain, then vanishes. Within seconds, the entire U.S. fleet realizes a ghost is lurking beneath the waves. It is no fishing boat, no cargo ship. It is China's Type 093 nuclear submarine, the so-called Silent Hunter. It disappears as quickly as if it never existed. But 30,000 feet above, an invisible eye is tracking its every move. Who is the hunter? And who is the prey? The coming twist will change everything. The guided missile destroyer USS John S. McCain cut steadily through calm waters, its CIC glowing in dim green light. Radar swept the horizon like an all-seeing eye, tracing the slow crawl of dozens of fishing boats moving at 12 knots. Then one trace appeared, thin as a pencil line, surging near 30 knots, slicing toward the fleet's course. And then, in less than 10 seconds, it vanished. On the sonar screen of the ANSQQ-89, the waveforms went flat, as if the ocean itself had swallowed the target whole. No warning tone, no fading echo. Just silence. For trained sailors, silence was not comfort, it was terror. Type 093 Shang-Tuntu, according to open sources, had been engineered to cut its acoustic profile, hiding in layers of cold water where sound bent and vanished. And now it was gone. The clock blinked 03:13, 60 seconds erased. At a speed of nearly 30 knots, if the submarine wanted to reach firing range, the fleet might have only minutes left. Officers kept their voices low, hands steady, as if the walls themselves could betray them. Every tick of the clock stretched longer, every breath in the CIC seemed too loud. Numbers remained clinical, but the setting was not. Blue-green light bathed tense faces. The hum of cooling fans mixed with the faint smell of salt water drifting through metal doors. A junior operator marked a triangle on the chart, then froze at a note beside it. The annotation was chilling. Possible Type 093 contact lost. The question hung over the room like a storm cloud. Had the hunter slipped into position? What they did not know was that 30,000 feet above, another American eye had been watching this ghost for hours. And when it returned, the roles of predator and prey would change. Within seconds of losing the contact, the order rippled through the fleet. Silent search. Active sonar was cut. The ocean swallowed their transmissions. Now the destroyers would hunt only with passive ears, straining to catch the faintest vibration beneath the waves. Under favorable conditions, passive sonar could detect a submarine's noise at ranges approaching 80 kilometers. But favorable was a cruel word. Thermal layers bent sound. Engine cavitation could be masked by background clutter. And the Type 093, if it was indeed there, was moving like a ghost in water that erased its own tracks. Inside the Combat Information Center, the silence grew heavier than the sea outside. Screens glowed, headphones hissed faint static, and every sailor knew that silence did not mean safety, it meant the enemy was close. A lieutenant muttered under his breath, "We just lost track of a shark, and all we are is a school of sardines." No one laughed. The image was too accurate. The countdown ticked. 3 minutes. If the submarine had gone to attack speed, it could already be positioning for a strike. 2 minutes. Its torpedo tubes could be opening. 1 minute. Its crosshairs might already be on a U.S. supply ship. The fleet's lifeline, a gray-hulled oiler carrying millions of gallons of fuel, lumbered in the center of the formation. If the enemy chose it as prey, the entire battle group would be paralyzed. Every second stretched longer. The air smelled of sweat and salt. Officers leaned over charts, tracing arcs of possibility, knowing each line was only a guess. Outside, the sea rolled indifferent, concealing predator and prey alike. And in the shadows beneath, something waited. The contact was gone, but intelligence painted the picture clearly enough. If it was indeed a Type 093 Shang-2, the Americans knew what they were facing. Public reports described the submarine as a nuclear-powered hunter-killer, capable of speeds near 30 knots under ideal conditions, armed with U-6 heavyweight torpedoes and the YJ-18 cruise missile, a weapon designed to strike surface ships from beyond the horizon. It was built to be the predator of predators, a steel body forged to outlast, outdive, and outshoot its rivals. In Chinese naval propaganda, it was the silent hunter. In reality, U.S. analysts often compared its acoustic profile to that of an older Los Angeles-class submarine, quieter than China's past designs, but not a true ghost. Every submarine makes noise. Pumps, turbines, propeller blades, machines are never truly silent. The ocean keeps its secrets, but it also keeps its echoes. Still, the Chang'e carried a certain menace. At full speed, it could close the gap in minutes. Its torpedoes, according to available data, could track a moving target with deadly persistence. Its cruise missiles could, under favorable conditions, launch from below the waves and streak toward an unsuspecting supply ship. And yet, for all its reputation, the submarine was still bound by physics. Dark humor sometimes crept into the minds of those who studied it. A dragon beneath the sea, with steel lungs and sharpened claws. But even dragons have to breathe. Somewhere in the dark, that dragon was listening, waiting, calculating. And above it, an American fleet strained to hear a whisper from a beast that wanted to become the ocean's ghost. From the north, a U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon swept down from Okinawa, engines rumbling as it carved a white contrail across the pre-dawn sky. Beneath its wings hung racks of sonobuoys, each one a steel ear tuned to hear what the human ear could not. At the drop zone, hatches snapped open, and 36 cylinders tumbled into the sea, splashing in sequence like falling dominoes. A net of sensors now stretched for miles, sinking into the black water, waiting. The AN/APY-10 radar pulsed outward. Under ideal conditions, it could spot even a small vessel riding the waves. But the ocean was rarely ideal. Whitecaps bent reflections, rain squalls blurred outlines, and a submarine thrived in that chaos. For a brief moment, the hunt felt alive. Headphones hissed, voices rose. One buoy caught a low vibration 12 nautical miles out. Another detected a pulse like a heartbeat below the surface. Operators leaned forward. They thought they had it. Then, as if by command, the signals died. One by one, the buoys went dark. Screens emptied. The ocean had gone silent again. In the Combat Information Center, whispers spread like cracks in glass. Sailors rechecked wiring, recalibrated frequencies, desperate to pull something back from the void. The captain's jaw tightened. Somewhere down there, the hunter had not only slipped the net, it had mocked it. Every passing minute ticked like a countdown. For the Type 093, each second offered the chance to choose its prey. And for the fleet above, surrounded by sensors but blind to the dark, time was running out. Far below the rolling waves, another player slid silently into the game. USS Hawaii, a Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarine, received its orders. Close in, shadow the contact, and prepare to strike if necessary. At a depth of roughly 400 feet, it settled into creep mode, edging forward at only 12 knots. Every movement was calculated to vanish beneath the ocean's background noise. Inside the control room, the atmosphere was stifling. Sailors hunched over consoles, headphones pressed tight, listening for something, anything, that didn't belong. The ocean was a chorus of noise, whales, currents, distant merchant ships. One petty officer whispered to another, "In the dark, even a whale sounds like a torpedo coming for you." No one laughed. Dark humor was the only relief in a hunt where the enemy might already be in knife range. The countdown loomed over every action. If the Type 093 had accelerated after vanishing from the surface net, it could already be within torpedo distance. 3 minutes, plenty of time to line up a shot. 2 minutes, enough to open tubes, load a U-6. 1 minute, just long enough to kill a ship before anyone realized they were under attack. Every man in the compartment felt it. The silent duel had narrowed into a knife fight in a pitch-black room. They were groping forward with ears alone, knowing the enemy might already be behind them, blade raised. USS Hawaii was advanced, its sensors refined, its stealth world-class. But technology didn't erase fear. It only sharpened it. Above them, the fleet waited blind. Below them, the abyss held its secrets. And in between, Hawaii crept forward, daring the dragon to make the first move. The calm didn't last. Over the comms, the P-8A Poseidon cut in, reporting a faint surface trace, an anomaly skimming close to the waves, just within detection range. Operators in the CIC leaned forward, adrenaline spiking. If the submarine had surfaced or was running shallow, this was the chance they had been waiting for. Cluster sonobuoys were triggered. A chain of sensors splashed into the sea, creating a tight ring around the suspected contact. Timers blinked on consoles. 60 seconds for deployment, 30 seconds to calibrate, 10 seconds to lock. The room was electric. A target was in the net. And then, nothing. Screens cleared to static. Sonobuoys that had been alive moments earlier reported only silence. The ocean gave back no echoes. It was as if the contact had never existed. Confusion crackled over the intercom. Sailors checked frequencies, reran diagnostics, swore under their breath. But the truth settled quickly. It wasn't a ghost they had caught. It was bait. Somewhere in the depths, the Type 093 had left behind an acoustic decoy, a machine designed to mimic the thrum of a submarine. It had lured the sensors, burned precious minutes, and then faded away. In hunting terms, the prey had grabbed the trap and yanked it shut on the hunters. The countdown resumed. Every wasted second was a gift to the adversary. And now, the U.S. fleet knew the game was not only cat and mouse, it was cat and mouse with a mouse smart enough to laugh back. Beneath the South China Sea, the Type 093 drifted in the dark like a predator circling its prey. Its crew whispered coordinates, calculations snapping into place with clinical precision. The sonar returns were faint but steady. The USNS Rappahannock, a gray oiler carrying millions of gallons of fuel, lumbering in the middle of the formation. Slow, exposed, vulnerable. In the attack center of the submarine, lights glowed red. Fingers danced across consoles, plotting firing solutions. The order was quiet, almost ceremonial. Target acquired, solution locked. For the crew, it was the sweetest phrase in their vocabulary. The hunter had cornered its prey. The submarine was imagined as a tiger in the deep, claws unsheathed, ready to pounce. In the minds of its operators, the Americans above were nothing more than sitting ducks waiting for the storm. The U-6 torpedoes in their tubes promised devastation, and the YJ-18 cruise missiles offered destruction from afar. On paper, the odds looked perfect. The countdown began. 3 minutes to final positioning. 2 minutes to confirm targeting data. 1 minute to open the tubes. The captain's eyes narrowed, lips curling in satisfaction. The ocean seemed complicit, muffling every sound, hiding the hunter's advance. But in war, silence is rarely safety. Somewhere above, unseen sensors were awakening. Somewhere beyond the range of their calculations, a trap was being set. Yet down in the attack center of the Type 093, the crew could feel only triumph, as if the kill was already theirs. The claws of the tiger were extended. All that remained was the strike. Above the waves, the P-8A Poseidon banked sharply, circling into position. Below, USS Hawaii crept into range, its crew tense and silent. Then the command was given. Switch to active. A deep pulse surged from Hawaii's low-frequency sonar, a sound wave rolling through the sea like a thunderclap in slow motion. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Operators counted in whispers. 1, 2, 3. The ocean swallowed the pulse. The eye, 8, 9, 10. The men held their breath. At 12 seconds, under specific conditions, the first echoes returned. A jagged line crawled across the screen, resolving into a shape unmistakable. The predator had been lit up. For the crew of the Type 093, the moment was catastrophic. Their displays came alive with alerts. The submarine's computer screamed warnings. They had been painted. Every officer knew what that meant. Location exposed, position compromised. In the cruel calculus of undersea warfare, being detected was the same as being dead. The twist was brutal. The hunter that had imagined itself a tiger in the deep was now trapped in the spotlight. The Americans had flipped the script, using technology and timing to turn the stalker into prey. The countdown shifted sides. 3 minutes, enough for Hawaii to prepare a firing solution. 2 minutes, for the Poseidon to vector in additional sonobuoys. 1 minute, just long enough to lock the submarine in a steel cage of echoes. The echoes on Hawaii's sonar painted a clear outline. The Type 093 was no longer the invisible shadow it wanted to be. It was exposed, pinned by sound, every movement tracked in real time. The U.S. commander didn't need to fire. In undersea warfare, exposure was its own weapon. Inside the Chinese submarine, tension cracked like glass. Officers barked conflicting orders, screens flashed warnings. The crew felt the weight of inevitability. Every American destroyer in the formation knew their position now. Every P-8 overhead could vector in weapons at a moment's notice. For a hunter, there was nothing more humiliating than being seen. The captain hesitated, then gave the order no predator ever wants to speak. Break off. Retreat. Ballast tanks shifted, screws slowed, and the submarine angled south, slipping back toward the safety of Hainan. Each maneuver was cautious, desperate to fade into background noise, but the truth was undeniable. They were running. The Americans watched without firing a shot. On the CIC screens, the fading trace was like a victory flag. They didn't need to sink the target, they only needed to show they could. Sometimes dominance was measured not in wrecks on the seafloor, but in the silence of an enemy forced to run. The countdown shifted again, but this time it was a release. 5 minutes. The last faint echoes still marked the retreat. 4 minutes. Signals grew weaker. 3 minutes. The ocean began swallowing the noise. 2 minutes. Only a flicker remained. 1 minute. The screen went blank. The shadow had vanished, not in triumph, but in flight. Above the waves, the fleet resumed its course, steady and unshaken. No cheers, no fireworks, just a quiet certainty that the message had been delivered. The hunter had been unmasked. The ocean still belonged to America. The sonar screen lingered with a single fading dot, pulsing weakly, then dissolving into the void. Silence followed. No alarms, no echoes, just the flat emptiness of the deep. For a moment, it felt as if the ocean itself had drawn a curtain, erasing the hunter from existence. But the sailors knew better. The dot's disappearance wasn't proof of safety, only proof of patience. In the age of stealth, silence was once the ultimate weapon. The unseen submarine, the undetected shadow, that was how wars were tilted. Yet technology had changed the rules. Low-frequency sonar, airborne surveillance, networks of sensors, light now pierced even the darkest waters. The lesson was brutal and simple. Nothing vanishes forever. Everything leaves a trace. The predator that prides itself on silence is only buying time until someone listens harder, looks deeper, waits longer. What disappears today returns tomorrow, not as a ghost, but as a target. In the CIC, the screens glowed blank, but the room was alive with unspoken relief. The fleet pressed forward, unbroken. Somewhere behind them, the Type 093 crawled back to its haven. And somewhere ahead, new patrols would wait, new eyes would search. Silence once ruled the seas. But in the age of technology, not even the ocean can hide you. Nothing stays gone forever. It is only found later. The dot was gone. The message remained. If this story pulled you in, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe so every scenario can stretch beyond imagination and linger long after the screen fades. Remember, this is storytelling, not a playbook. No commander, sailor, or soldier should ever gamble with lives in reckless games of intimidation. The purpose is to illustrate, to dramatize, to warn, never to instruct. Any resemblance to classified missions or individuals is purely coincidental. The intent is not to mislead or glorify war, but to spark curiosity, reflection, and a deeper appreciation for how fragile modern conflict can be.